All right. Welcome to Waste Some Time with Jason Green. I'm Jason Green. Remember, we have brand new rock and roll interviews every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So you got to subscribe to the channel so you can get notified when those new interviews come out. Anyway, today we're going to have a really cool conversation with Jeff Pilson. Now, Jeff's probably best known for Dokken and Foreigner, but he has about 100 other credits, and we can't get into all of them. But so today we're going to talk a little bit about the classic era of Dokken and some other things as well. So all of that right after this. All right, let's welcome Jeff Pilson. Hold on one second. There he is.
Hello.
Jeff, I'm glad you're here.
Well, thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, I was saying you never know what you're going to get with people when you're doing these interviews at home. You've got a studio. You're making records in that house. You're writing books. So, you know what I mean? This is nothing new to you.
Well, yeah, that doesn't mean I understand the tech, but okay.
Yeah, but you connected with no problem. Now, so we're going to talk about some of the classic Dokken records today. But before I get into that, I want to explain why we can't, sometimes I do a career overview of people. And sometimes you get a guy who's known for one thing. Here's why we can't do a career overview with you. According to Wikipedia, they're always accurate. These are the acts that you're associated with: Christmas, Cinema, Randy Hansen, Dokken, War and Peace, Wild Horses, Michael Lee Firkins, MSG, Dio, Craig Goldie, 13th Floor. This one's going to be tough. Monitaka Higuchi with Dream Castle, Underground Moon, Lynch Pilson, Foreigner, Power Project, Benedictium, Adler, T&N, Starship, I didn't even know about that one, Lynch Mob, The End Machine, Black Swan. I'm not sure you were involved in all these things.
A good idea, but a couple of them I need to sort of dust off the cobwebs to remember. But yes,
yeah,
it was 20-some things, I think.
Yeah. Well, listen, in this pandemic, you've stayed busy.
I have.
Yeah, and which I think is the best thing for people. Take the downtime, because obviously with Foreigner alone, you've been on the road constantly.
Yeah, that's right. And it's been great being home, frankly. I recognize for a lot of people that this has been very, very, very difficult, and I understand that. But to be honest, for me personally, it's been great being with my family in my studio for a year. I can't complain.
Yeah, you're a family man, and you produce as well, and these are things that you're able to do.
Yeah, now, mind you, producing has been a challenge because of the pandemic. But at least it didn't stop altogether, and at least I was able to do a couple records. A lot of it being done remotely, but it's being in this atmosphere every day. I'm very happy.
Yeah, well, and that's a good thing. Now in that long list of credits, they did not mention that you co-starred with Mark Wahlberg and Freddy Krueger. So those are big.
I have.
Big credits. Now we're going to get to those as well.
But who's dropping names?
Right. We just dropped. They're going to be picking these names up for months, Jeff.
That's right.
That's all right. You did the work. You deserve the credit too. So let's talk about early Dokken. Look, we can't spend all day on these things. You've got other things to do. But Mike Varney, who later founded Shrapnel Records, discovered tons of amazing guitar players. You guys were working together.
That's right.
And he is the one who told you that Dokken was looking for a bass player.
That's
and
correct.
Before you, Juan Croucier of Rat was in Dokken, and he recorded the bass on the Breaking the Chains album. So now tell me a little bit about your
couple songs. Actually, Peter Baltus from Accept played on most of the songs.
And did Juan's brother or something like that play on it too?
No, but I think he played on some earlier demos.
Okay.
But I think he and Bobby Blotzer both played on some of the demos that got Don signed, I believe.
Yeah, because one had told me about it once before, and I just forgot. There's so
Yeah,
much
yeah.
history. It's like early Spinal Tap bands. First we were this, and then we were that. But so okay, so tell me about your getting involved with that record, with the
With
band.
with the band, yeah. Well, basically, by then I had moved to LA, and Mike and I worked together up until uh, probably I think it was about early '82, and then in '83 I moved to LA. He had already started Shrapnel. He was already flying with Shrapnel actually at that point. And he also had a column in Guitar Player, and he was kind of known as the guy that you call to find other musicians. So Don called him a couple months after I had moved to LA and connected us. And I met with Don and had an interesting day with him. And then George, Mick, and Don all came to see me. I was in a cover band at the time, and they came to see the cover band, and they liked what they saw. And and they asked me, to come down and play with them. So I did, and there you go.
Yeah, and one of your contributions to Dokken is obviously your voice, singing those backups, and Juan also has a big voice and was known for singing backups.
Sure.
And so when you get into the band, listen, it's no secret that Dokken is a dysfunctional band, to quote the record title.
Right.
Did you know that right away?
I knew that before I even met George and Mick, because Don made it very clear that he didn't like George the day I met him. But it was kind of that, I don't like the guitar player. We don't get along, but he's great. That's kind of the impression he gave me of George. So yeah, I knew what I was in for. I knew that they had some weird animosity. I didn't realize the degree to which, to how far it went. I didn't know all the causes. I've sort of over the years kind of pieced a lot of it together, but and I certainly never thought that it would become like the press angle about the band, which it became when we did the Tooth and Nail record. The publicist for the label at the time, they conducted a bunch of interviews with us, trying to determine something that they could do to make Dokken unique. And what they centered in on was the rift in the band, and then of course it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because then one guy says something in the press, the other guy says, and it just got worse and worse. So not a good idea if you want to keep your band together, by the way. Just for any of you new bands looking for a press angle, that's not a good one.
How interesting that obviously there was animosity, but that it was manufactured and then also released as an angle, because it worked. Fans knew about it.
Amplified. Yeah, I wouldn't say it was manufactured, but I would say it was amplified.
Yeah, but what an interesting thing, because listening to Dokken records growing up, you always heard about how this band didn't get along.
Right. Which, as far as the label's concerned, maybe it helped, because maybe that did give us something to be talked about. But, there's that part of me that wishes it would have been something else, because I do think it really exacerbated all the problems.
Sure. Okay, so this is your first record with Dokken. This is Tooth and Nail.
Yep.
There's 2 different covers of this record, and maybe tell me why that is.
I never, ever got a really, really clear answer, other than at the time they felt that the one you're showing would not look good on a cassette. And I believe that's the only reason that they did it, is to come up with another one for the cassette.
Interesting. Okay, so I think that's, back then I think people spent their time on the most ridiculous things. You know what I mean? Like the cassette, that's where we got to get the 2 hands.
Well, the cassettes sold the most units, and I think they wanted to make sure, if you would have cropped that, I think it would have made that, because remember, cassettes are kind of oblong. Mm-hmm. So I think they were afraid it would have made the Dokken too small or something. I don't really remember why, but that was the only close to an explanation I ever got.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's an explanation nonetheless.
Yeah.
So now tell me a little bit. Now you're involved in the band, and you're going to be involved in the songwriting process as well. So tell me a little bit about what that's like for you.
Well, that's one of the things that I've always admired most about all the guys in Dokken, George, Mick, and Don, is from day one, they wanted somebody to be involved in the writing. There was, considering how much ego played a part in what people seem to know as the image of Dokken. There was a lot less ego in the writing than you might expect, because it really was about what's the best thing, what's going to be the best result. Not always, but for the most part it was. And I remember Don, I was just impressed with Don, that he was so adamant about that when we first met. And they were like, bring out musicality in us, dude. So, I mean, it was a very, very fertile environment for creativity, writing with that band, always. I mean, sure, there was downtimes and bad moments, but the writing and the work on the songs was always a very, very respectable process. Everybody being very, very focused, and ultimately we ended up developing a chemistry that was very, very effective. And again, it starts with the fact that we wanted to utilize everyone's talents. It wasn't like, one guy's in control and that's it. It was very collaborative in so many ways. And I think that ultimately, I think, is the secret to why Dokken succeeded, other than the obvious of, George's greatness and Don's unique voice and all that kind of stuff. But we really strove to make great songs, and we had a great writing chemistry. A result, partly, I believe, that was a result of the fact that everybody had the right attitude about writing.
Was songwriting ever an issue with you guys? You hear these stories, and a lot of people that I've been interviewing fighting over publishing and who wrote this and who wrote that.
Well,
was that ever a factor?
The smart thing is in the 80s, our management right away said, okay, listen, you guys are splitting everything equal. We're going to take away the ability for these arguments and for the reasons for people to want to have self-interest in their input, which was, I think, a brilliant move. Didn't mean we didn't fight about credits sometimes and all that kind of thing. But because we shared everything equally, it was a very... it was less of that than probably a lot of bands experienced. And sure. I think that was incredibly healthy.
Yeah, I'm sure, because you hear it constantly with bands. The Go-Go's was a big one. Charlotte Caffey wrote We Got the Beat by herself, and Jane Whelan wrote Our Lips Are Sealed by herself. They kept all the publishing, and eventually the other girls were really angry and pretty much broke up the band. And constantly, I interview people every single day, and you hear that story a lot. Very rare that you hear the share of the publishing. Also, you don't have to deal with people forcing bad songs, maybe, because they want that songwriting credit.
Yeah, of course. That was the whole purpose for that. Yeah.
As a producer, you might see that, though.
Well, it's funny. The things that I've produced in the last several years, I have not experienced a whole lot of that, really. There's most of the bands either kind of have their setup worked out, ahead of time, or they have a working relationship, or there are a couple guys, like with Black Swan, Robin and Reb and I share everything equally. With M Machine, Robert and George and I share everything equally. That's just how we do it.
And in these days, it makes a lot more sense too, because the chance that one of these songs becomes a number one single is different. So you might as well stay together. So tell me a little bit about Tooth and Nail, some of your memories of this record and just this time.
Well, in many ways, it's my fondest of Dokken, because there was still a lot of young excitement and enthusiasm, and the whole thing started really. I spent it was a little over a month practically living at George's house in Orange County. And we just wrote and worked really hard every day. Mick was living there at the time, so it used to be kind of funny because Mick didn't have the patience to work the way George and I do. But he would go out and party and go hit the clubs and whatever, and he'd come back at 2:30 in the morning, kind of with a fresh perspective. And a lot of times, we'd be still working, and he'd come in and he'd have a fresh idea, and it was like, yeah, that's great. And so the songwriting was extremely inspiring. George and I had already established our friendship and our writing chemistry, because on the Breaking the Chains tour, we often roomed together, and we would usually end up writing and working. And, several of the Tooth and Nail songs the germs of them were started on the road from the Breaking the Chains tour. But that month of intense writing was really great. And we got a lot done, and we wrote a lot of the record in that point. And then I spent some time with Don, which, where we got into the Fire and Alone Again. And then the pre-production was really fun. I mean, it was really exciting, here making a record and new songs and new gear, and we were working with Jeff Workman and Tom Werman. And when Tom Werman came down to rehearsals, it was great. Just a really good atmosphere. Tom's a fun guy. We got in the studio, and yes, there were some problems in the studio, but overall, my memory in the studio of that record is also really positive, because I got such an incredible lesson in production during that record. Jeff Workman, the engineer, pretty much, we just buddied up right away and hit it off like, we were thick as thieves. So I would stay with him every night, learning, and he would play me cassettes from Journey sessions and Toto sessions and all this interesting stuff. And we'd talk, and I learned so many tricks, and I would, I just learned so much during the making of that record, and did a lot of the actual production on Don's vocals on a lot of the songs, because Tom and Don didn't really hit it off, in that. They hit it off personally fine, but they weren't really connecting. So Tom just said, you deal with the vocals, and I did, and it was great, and it also gave Don and I a real good start, because I was the new guy, which is
right.
The weird part about asking me to do some of that stuff. But it really got us off into a strong working relationship, and it built a very strong foundation for everything else we did. Yeah,
I was wondering where you started getting that production idea.
Well, I'd had it all my life. I'd always been interested. I was the guy that would take a cassette machine, play something on that, and then record it onto another cassette machine and play along. I was always really, really into the recording process, and studied records, and I loved it all. But now I had finally had a chance, professional recording studios, and it was a chance to really learn, and it was amazing.
Yeah, and you were around some really great people.
Great, the Michael Wagners, the Roy Thomas Bakers, the Jeff Workmans, the Tom Wermans, the Neil Kernans, the Wynn Davises, all those people that I got to be around. It was really amazing.
So there's two things now about this record. We got touring, and then also the music videos. When you make these music videos, do you have any idea that they're as ridiculous as they are when you look at them now?
Well, the Breaking the Chains video, I can assure you that very soon after that, when we saw it, we realized we'd made a very corny video. And we were pretty bummed out by that, actually. Then on Tooth and Nail, we started working with Wayne Isham, and we had a really good working relationship with him. And I liked the Just Got Lucky video. The End of the Fire video we did with David Mallet in London, and I thought that was a little overblown.
Helicopters, and it's
it was a weird. I mean, it was fun, and it was my first time in London, and it was actually it was everybody. I think it was everybody's first time in London. It was really a fun experience, a lot of fun. But by the time we got with Wayne Isham, we started getting a clue. And I think Alone Again, for what it is a really good video. And I thought Just Got Lucky was cool too.
Yeah. And Wayne Isham went on to obviously be the big arena video guy, Bon Jovi, all the biggest videos.
Yeah. And rightfully so. He's brilliant.
Yeah. So, okay. And then now, as far as touring goes, what was it? Who were you touring with, and what was it like at this point?
Well, we started the Tooth and Nail tour touring with Twisted Sister and Y&T. That was the first thing we did, which was really fun. And then we moved on to opening for Dio for several months, which was touring, rock touring, being a rock band 101. That was a real valuable experience for us. I mean, George and I would sit and watch Dio almost every night, and we were just amazed at how professional they were and tight, and how they sounded and how they played. Learned a lot from that. Had some great friendships started. So I think that Dio tour was where we crossed over from being a so-so live band to a pretty good live band. Then after that, we played with Crocus and Sammy Hagar, and who else did we tour with on that record? I'm missing somebody, but anyways,
Yeah.
it was a really, we became the consummate opener for everybody, and it was a great experience. And God, we loved the road back then. God, it was just so much fun.
Well, and what's amazing about this and cool coincidence is that eventually you would end up performing with Dio. You were in his band for a long time.
Right, that's right.
Did you get to talk to him on that tour at all? This one?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, I think we, made concrete friendships during that tour. I mean, we actually played with them. We did a few shows with them on the Breaking the Chains tour. We did 6 shows with Dio, which is where we all met. Actually, I'd met Ronnie before that, but I'd never met Vinny or Vivian or Jimmy, and we all became friends then. So by the time we were touring during Tooth and Nail, we were already all pretty good friends, and yeah, we hung out a lot. Actually, the bands and crews of both Dio and Dokken got along great, and it was a really good combo. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that was definitely probably the seed of me being in Dio as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty cool beginning. Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to jump ahead. You guys were cranking these records out, at this point. Tooth and Nail 84, this is 85. I had Mark Weiss on last week, and I was going over his record covers, and I go, well, this is a famous cover. And he goes,
Not
because I
me.
grew up, and he goes, famous, I call it infamous. He said, I got a lot of heat for this one. So,
Yeah. Well, yeah, because look at those outfits. Yeah, that was the peak of the hairband era. And then what's really funny about that is if you had one of the earlier pressings and you turn the record around, there was the backside of that shot. This little picture of us from behind.
wow.
It was just so ridiculously corny. Don't know how that happened, but anyway, I guess that the Dokken sideways is a key, so anyway, keyhole. Yeah, listen, the record, I think, has a lot of great music on it. But we were never really great with fashion. Let's put it that way.
Yes, it's fun. George on his social media, he sometimes makes fun of himself, and it's very funny. It's also not very politically correct, but yeah, you guys had a strange fashion sense for sure. So yeah, this record has great songs on it, and the band was getting more and more popular, obviously, at this point. So talk a little bit about what it was like in this time, 1985.
Well, this is, I think, when we hit our peak of efficiency and proficiency and productivity. We were getting to be pretty organized at that point. The writing process was intense but really good. George and I had once again written a lot of the music on the road beforehand, but then had really good writing sessions. I remember a lot of writing sessions with Don and Mick that were very productive. And obviously I've always spent a lot of time with George, and it was just we were in a really good place. We were still really hungry, very focused, hardworking. We didn't have enough money yet to get stupid. And so we were pretty focused, and the recording was very focused, and there was just a lot of great stuff going on. I mean, it was really an amazing time. I mean, we were very it was great at that point. I was very happy.
And you guys played some really big shows around this time too.
Yeah, let's see that. I mean, the first thing we did on the Under Lock and Key tour was go to Japan, if I'm not mistaken, and that was at the end of '85, which was great. We actually brought the record there before it was released, so it was released while we were there in Japan, and it was really cool. And then let's see who else. Oh, and then we did another tour. I believe that was another tour with Twisted Sister. No, yeah, it was another tour with Twisted Sister. I think so, right?
I think that sounds right.
Yeah. I think that was, we did another tour with Twisted Sister then. That was their Come Out and Play record. And who else did we tour with? Toured Loverboy. I'm forgetting some people, but Kiss. We did a while with Kiss. So yeah, again, a lot of good opening stuff. Did some headlining shows to kind of get our feet wet there. Yeah, we were on the up and up. We were definitely, it was definitely picking up steam. It was and it was the kind of situation that you just don't find anymore. You don't find acts getting that much of a chance from record labels and getting that much support. I mean, a lot of tour support. Mm-hmm. Even though by then we were starting to get paid okay. But still, without that label support and everything, it would have been impossible to take it as far as we did.
Yeah, I think Dokken is one of these bands where, yes, there was people at the time who were way into it, but there's a lot of people like myself who were a little bit younger and then went and got the back catalog. Something else comes out, and then you just start to discover the other records. And so I think that's big for Dokken. I think some of these songs got bigger later in the later years.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think Dokken in general got bigger in later years, partly because we didn't make it all the way up there. So it was like we were a little bit of an underdog, and I think we stayed underdog for a long time, which when it comes to fan credibility, I think that always helps. Mm-hmm. Even though we were a little frustrated, like, why aren't we selling what Bon Jovi does? That kind of thing. But anyway, it was but we did it the old-fashioned way. Hard work on the road, working hard on records, taking several records to make it, and that's kind of a lost art.
Well, for sure. Okay, so now we're jumping way ahead here. 1987. Mm-hmm. How are you guys getting along at this point?
It's pretty crusty. By this point, by the writing of Back for the Attack, George and Mick and I have moved to Phoenix, and that was a problem. I mean, I remember Don came out to stay with us for a few days to do some writing. And you could just feel it was losing cohesion, at that point. We got a little lost and now there was drugs starting to kick in, and now there was money starting to kick in. So we started to drift apart. I mean, George and I had still spent a lot of time on Under Lock and Key. We were still rooming together and we were still writing together. So that was cool. And so we had some good music coming into it. A lot of the riffs were already there. And like I say, Don had come out to Phoenix, and that's when we wrote like Kiss of Death, and I forget what else.
There's some heavy songs on this record.
Yeah. And we had Mr. Scary, which George and I had written in Phoenix at some point. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot of good stuff, but we were just it was getting too uncontrolled at that point. And yes, we made a good record, but we could have made a better record had we been more together.
Tell me a little bit about these guys' personalities for people who don't know. I mean, I know George pretty good. Was he the same way that he is now? He's like, George Lynch is like Stephen Wright. He's the most dry person, and it's very hard to get a read on him. You never know if he's messing with you. Was it like that then too?
Yes, he was like that then. I mean, he was also a little more intense in some other ways, but he's always had that sense of humor. I mean, that's his core. He's really that. But he's an intense. He can be a real workaholic too, and he can, he's very dedicated to his craft, and he loves music, and he loves to make music that that'll kick your ass. Don was always Don, he gets a rap for being arrogant because he can be sometimes. Mm-hmm. Back then, especially, he could be pretty arrogant, but he always also had a good heart, and he also could be really funny and have a great sense of humor. And he was always very focused. I got to give Don a lot of credit, especially back then. He was pretty focused. His focus was very important to the band, really. And Mick was exactly the same. Mick, Mick's just a little crankier now sometimes, but overall, Mick, but his sense of humor is the same.
He was Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and some of that, but kind of became a put on after a while because he was Wild Mick Brown and had to be Wild Mick Brown. Mm-hmm. But Mick is at heart a really good person. He's a really he too was a very professional, hardworking guy. Probably didn't like working as much as we did, but when we had to work and he had to work, he was up for it and he was game. So, you know, people don't change that much over the years. They may mellow, they may change, but they're kind of the same as they've always been.
It's in there.
It's in there.
Now, Jeff, so we know that these personalities are a little crazy. What about you? Did you feel like an outsider going, holy cow, these guys are nuts? Or were you a little bit crazy too?
Oh, I was really crazy too. Well, I was crazy. I mean, I was always considered the reasonable one, but
that's what I thought.
But that's only in relation to the other guys. I probably did have more of a responsibility thing in some ways even at that point. But listen, I was a big druggie, and I did a lot of drugs until 1989. So I was out there. I was out there too. And so no, I didn't feel like we liked to party and I liked doing drugs and playing. That was a big thing I loved to do. So no, I was pretty crazy. I drank a lot, all that kind of stuff. And that has changed in me. But I was still a pretty positive person, and I still really wanted the band to succeed. That was still very important to me.
I think that maybe the other guy's issues and also how it was perceived might have taken some stress off of you, because I don't think people realize. I don't think we're talking about your issues.
Well, maybe
they were focusing on the other guys.
Well, all that does is enable your issues, so that's not a good thing.
No, for sure. Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about this right here.
Yes.
Dream Warriors. Tell me about this song, first of all, how you guys came up with this.
Okay, so it was George and I were in Phoenix already, and it was the first song that we wrote. We got this Akai 12-track, it was this big old machine, but you had 12 tracks to demo on. It was like really exciting. And that was the first song we did, and I still have the tapes of that. It's pretty funny. And so we made a demo of the song. It was a competition in a sense, because Don also wrote a song called Dream Warriors.
Wow.
But we both, George and I wrote ours in Phoenix. He wrote his in LA. We submitted them to the directors. They happened to pick ours. And like I say, I have fond memories of it. Not only was it the first thing we did on the 12-track, but it was George and I kind of getting our feet wet in Phoenix too, working together there. And like I say, I have very fond memories of that. It was really fun.
So the movie is called Dream Warriors, right?
We actually got a script, and we actually took some lyrics from the script.
Yeah. Okay. So it's funny that there's somewhere there's the Don Dream Warriors.
Yeah.
And there's your Dream Warriors. Was Don salty, so to speak, that yours was chosen?
Not as much as you might think. He accepted it.
It's a good song.
Yeah, and I think he knew that, and my God, he sang the shit out of it. Wow. I think when he heard the demo, he probably was like, wow, I'm supposed to do that. But then he did it. I was blown away. I was really blown away.
Did you sing on the demo?
Yeah.
Was that pretty standard for you to sing on your songs? Sure.
Not all the time, but yeah. I sang on the demo for It's Not Love, and a lot of them. Just Got Lucky. A lot of them. Yeah.
Now, this is from the music video. You guys make a music video for the record, for the movie and the record. And so tell me what this is like. It's co-starring with Freddy Krueger.
Well, I remember we did it actually, coincidentally, very close to where George now lives. But at the time it felt like a million miles away from LA. Mm-hmm. Not really that far at all. But we went out there and it was in a very cold warehouse. I remember there was no heat, and it was in February when we did the video. There was one tiny little space heater in this gigantic warehouse, because basically we were doing it in the New Line Cinema warehouse where they stored all the props and everything. So made sense to do it there. But there was no heat. There was this little tiny space heater. There was no catering. I remember finally at one point we were like, we're really hungry, and they ordered Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Wow. Big stars.
And I remember it was the most expensive video we'd ever done, and we go, what? So the actual making of the video, the fun part was Robert Englund, because he is just such a funny guy. The guy who plays Freddy Krueger, he was so funny and he was cracking us up, and I think that kept our spirits good because he just all day he was really on fire.
Yeah, and he was in that makeup all day.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
well, he was used to that, but.
So anyway, this is a fun video, and I think there's a lot of people who did get turned on to Dokken because of this movie. I think some people know them as the Freddy Krueger band, you know.
Yeah, well, that was something that management did that was very, very smart. They made the connection with New Line Cinema and Wes Craven, the guy who directed the movies, because our manager Cliff and Wes were actually good friends. And we were the first ones to ever have a video put on the commercially released, video of the movie. So all that stuff helped immensely. Yeah.
Yeah, which is you can't buy that kind of advertising.
Right. Right.
All right, we're jumping ahead here. 1988. This is a live album in Japan. I get the feeling that this is the end of Dokken.
Yeah, well, because it was. Yeah, what happened is at the end of the Monsters Rock tour, so this was the end of August of '88, we had this big old meeting after the last show. The last show was at Mile High Stadium in Denver. And, like the record company and management all flew in from New York. The accountants flew in from LA. It was, the usual thing you hear about. And we were meeting in this big conference room overlooking Mile High Stadium and essentially breaking the band up while Van Halen's on stage. What they did was they offered us ridiculous money to do this live record. They were trying to keep us together. So they offered us this crazy money for this live record, and kind of squelched the talk of breaking up, although it ended up happening anyways. But so we got this money to do this live record, but nobody was really into it. I was really the only one that showed up at the mixes. Because like I say, everybody else was kind of not wanting to participate or wanting to move on. So yeah, that was kind of the end. And it was a shame. And then we did the video for Walk Away, the new song that was on it. And that was kind of a sad day. It wasn't angry, but it was sad.
And you guys filmed this video Walk Away. Everyone's in separate shots. And you seem to know that you guys are the band that makes a video to pretty much say we're breaking up.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, which is going to bring me to my next question about this, which is glam and hair metal, if you use those terms, hard rock, is about to explode with these younger bands. You're about to get, your Warrants and everything, the bands. So what you must be thinking to yourself as you're watching MTV, if we were out there, we would be making money. We could be playing if we could just get along, because in some ways, Dokken breaks up in '88. This scene of music was getting bigger through, say, 91, 92. And so what's going through your head about that?
Well, there's no secret about that, because I made it very known to the band at the time. I said, this is a mistake. We should not break up now. We should pull it together and try and hold on for at least another record. And in fact, management had, a meeting with us where they were like, okay, this is how much money you're going to make on a headlining tour if you can just hold it together. And it was like, please, but we didn't. And I always felt that was a big mistake. Don tends to say, like, well, they would have killed themselves on drugs, or whatever. But it was, business wise, there's no question it was a mistake.
And you're not the only band of this time to have the same exact problem. I was talking to Eddie Ojeda of Twisted Sister. Those guys broke up right around the same time. Mm-hmm. Missed a lot of opportunities because they couldn't get along. I was talking to Steve Lynch from the band Autograph.
Yeah,
they broke up before that music was accepted, and so this is definitely a tough thing. And that's not to say that you guys didn't all go do projects, but
they weren't. Of course, they weren't going to be as successful. Yeah, again, yes, I did end up getting sober because I think when I was left with like, wow, okay, now I'm on my own. That kind of helped me get together. So, Don has a point there. That was probably a good thing. But it can't help but, get into your head a little bit like, oh, but man, we could have been set for life, and but who knows? You can't wallow in that forever. And we got some good experiences, and we got other chances, which we kind of blew those too. but we've had, but all in all, we have had a good, solid, nice career.
Listen, you guys made something of it, and definitely, you were able to do reunions and things, which a lot of bands wouldn't have been able to. Before I'm going to sort of close the book on Dokken a little bit and get into some other things. Dokken did get back together a few times. So the question that you probably get all the time, will there be Dokken again?
I don't know.
I mean the real Dokken. I mean, I hate to be a jerk, but Don Dokken has a band called Dokken.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, listen, we all talk and we communicate. It's not out of the realm. It really isn't. I mean, it's down to timing. I mean, George and I, when we started doing this last End Machine record, after the first couple pieces of music that we wrote, we were like, wow, this is sounding very Dokken-like. And we actually called Don, and he actually heard some of the music and liked it and wanted to start writing some stuff to it. And then we kind of realized, well, wait a minute, he's got his contract, and he's got to be his Dokken, and he can't be another Dokken for a while. But having said that, the line of communication is there. If the timing ever worked out, and if the opportunities were ever there, I do believe somewhere inside all of us, except maybe Mick, he probably doesn't really concern himself too much with this, but I think there's the desire to make that one last great Dokken record. So I hope we do. I would love to do that. It'd be a nice thing. I mean, we still have our chemistry. We did a new song together in 2016 and it came out great. We still have that. So I would love it if we did one last record someday. But I could never say for sure because the timing and the circumstances are all just too unpredictable.
Yeah. If I'm guessing, I think it could happen. The idea that you want to do it, to all of you, is a good step. You know what I mean? It's not like the first time you had to put it back together when you had a lot to deal with. This time, terms are better. Now, your Foreigner schedule is insane.
Part of it. It's pretty crazy. And they all know that. And yeah, it would get in the way. And, the thing is, if we did do a Dokken record, it would be nice to do it correctly, which, means touring it afterwards and all that kind of stuff. But that's so far down the line. I can't even, I'm not even prepared to think of that yet. And you're right. The Foreigner schedule, which, is only going to get crazy as the world opens back up. The Foreigner schedule is going to get crazy again. So
Foreigner is your living. This is your career.
What I do now. It's the band I'm in. I'm musical director. I got a lot of responsibilities.
Foreigner puts food on the table, and you've been in that band. There's always questions of who's in the band, who's in the lineup. You have been consistent since, I believe, 2004.
Right.
In that band, your voice, your playing. It's a great band in general. I mean, all around you have guys.
You have a little catalog of material,
and you just happen to have some really good songs. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So obviously that's going to be your first priority. And a band like Foreigner, regardless of who's in the band or not, is always going to work. You guys have proven that. People want to hear that music. If you put a good stage show up, Kelly Hansen does a great job.
Yeah.
Chris Frazier on drums, an amazing drummer. You've got something. So, and Mick Jones is still playing. I saw you last here. You were doing a Vegas residency, and I think that was going to be the beginning of a long-term residency for you guys.
Yeah, well, and they certainly wanted us back, and then of course, the world changed.
It was literally before. It might have been February, and
yeah, something like that. Yeah, I mean, but I'm sure we'll go back and do that again. I would imagine, and yeah, listen, Foreigner has great music, great fans, and it's a great band, and it's a great organization. So I mean, yeah, it's a great situation, and. Yeah, so that does take up a huge chunk of my time. You
have new Foreigner fans too. I should point out, I've been to the shows, and there are people bringing their kids. A lot, not just a couple. There are young people who love this band. This is a new band to them. This is original band to them, and so it's great that they love it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, we give it our all when we're on stage, and I think young people relate to that, or at least they really appreciate it. And it's given us new life. Yeah, I mean, this band can go on for a while.
I'll tell you, Jeff, one thing. I got a bone to pick with you about Foreigner, and I'll tell you what it is. So every band now thinks, or every guy who really didn't matter in the band, a drummer, or I don't have anyone in mind, but they all decided, well, if Foreigner could go out, I can go out. And again, I don't have anyone in mind. But there's a lot of bands that all of a sudden thought, I don't have to have any original members, but it doesn't necessarily work that way. Foreigner is good. Mick Jones is there. The songs are also outstanding, and they are performed outstanding.
Well, and with Foreigner, I think the songs are much more famous than the band itself. And that's the key to our longevity.
Yeah. And so anyway, for all those bands watching who had one hit, don't try it. You can't all do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Not everybody could be Foreigner.
Yeah.
Okay. So listen, I think it would be great for you guys to do another Dokken record. And again, it's the kind of thing you have to do on your see if the times work. Let's talk about the End Machine a little bit. Essentially, this is Dokken. It's the lineup with Robert Mason, who was in Lynch Mob and is currently in Warrant. He's a great singer singing. So tell me a little bit about this record.
All right. Well, that record, which I believe came out in 2019, I think. Okay. Anyway, yeah, momentary lapse of reason there. Well, that was kind of the intent, was to put, the Dokken lineup with a different singer. And Robert was just perfect. I mean, the perfect guy to do it. I mean, I had worked with Robert on a Warrant record in 2015. So when his name came up, it was like immediate. I knew it was going to be great. I've known Robert for a long time, since he was in the Lynch Mob. George knew him and had worked with him. It was just a no-brainer when his name came up. And it was just immediately we had a chemistry. It was very, very cool. And it's really fun. It feels like a unit, and I love that about it. And yeah, Robert came in and just blew doors off. I mean, the guy's got an amazing voice. He's a great frontman. He's a good writer. He's a hard worker. I mean, it's all the right stuff.
Yeah. And I don't mean to be a troublemaker, but I'm not sure that Don would sing like this right now. I don't know if he would make this record.
He wouldn't. And that's not to say Don couldn't make something great, but that's not his thing. That kind of singing, aggressive rock singing, isn't really where he's at. Again, he has his own thing and he does it great. Does he have the range he once had? No, nobody does. I don't either. But there's a part of certainly George and I where we do want to still keep making aggressive rock music. We love that. That's what we love, So to have a singer with the facility that Robert has and the ethic that Robert has, we count our blessings.
Yeah, I've got a link to this down in the description. So if people haven't heard it and you want to check it out, and if maybe you're a Dokken fan and you didn't know about this, but by all means, pick this up. It supports the channel. It supports these guys so they can keep making this great music.
And we have another record coming on April 9th called Phase 2. And we already have 2 videos out. One of them just came out today. That's the second song. It's a song called Crack the Sky. We had another video for a song called Blood and Money that came out, I don't know when. January, I think, sometime. Or February. I forget. Anyway, but at some point that came out. So second record coming out in a week and a half, and we're very, very excited about that. Phase 2 I'm really proud of. The songs, we spent a lot of time on the songs, and I just feel like it's a real strong piece of work, and I'm very, very proud of it, and I can't wait for people to check it out. Again, record's called Phase 2, out April 9th.
And so can people pre-order that?
I believe so. You have to, the information is, it's all over the internet. If you look, there's the Jeff Pilson fan page. I think there's an End Machine official page. But if you go to the Jeff Pilson fan page, the information is there, and you can pre-order and just really excited about the record.
Okay, so I'm going to put links to that below. Who's playing drums right now?
Mick Brown's brother. Mick Brown has retired.
Right.
And so we were, in a bit of a dilemma. What we were going to do? What were we going to do? And then the suggestion came to use Steve, and Mick kind of wanted that to happen. And Steve just delivered like you would not believe. The guy, phenomenal player, great singer, and really good in the studio. He did a lot of studio work, starting in the 90s. So he's really together. And he just came in and kicked ass, played great drums, sang some great backgrounds, and just adds this excellent amount of enthusiasm and energy for the band, because he's a young guy compared to us. And he's on fire, and it makes the band really feel like a unit. I wish to God we could do some live shows, because the band would be so strong live.
Well, hopefully soon that people want to see that. And he's got his own nickname now, right?
He does?
I thought he was Mild.
Well, yeah, that's George's nickname. I don't think he wants that for his nickname.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, Mild is not the best. Listen,
yeah,
Dr. Seuss, George is not. You know what I mean? So, but I'm sorry that it's stuck. All right, now listen, Jeff. You've had this amazing career. You still have this amazing career. We didn't talk about tons of it, but there's one thing I told people. I'm interviewing Jeff Pilson, and I'm shocked at how many people want to talk about this. Here it is. Everybody said you have to talk about Rockstar. I had Blas Elias on, who from Slaughter, who also had an amazing career, and he was in the Blood Pollution cover band,
right?
And you were in the Blood Pollution band.
Steel Dragon.
Say it again.
And the band was called Steel Dragon.
Yeah, sorry. The song was Blood Pollution. The band is Steel Dragon.
Oh, no, Blood Pollution was the name of the cover band of Steel Dragon.
Got it. Yeah.
Because it was the name of a song, like how a lot of times cover bands name themselves after a song.
Yeah. Now, so I saw the movie, and I thought it was a little ridiculous at the time, but maybe it's a little too close to home sometimes. This is a cult classic now. This really is a movie that people love and are seeing over and over again. They want to ask. This is a great band right here. You got Jason Bonham, who played with you in Foreigner for a while. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Led Zeppelin as well as father, and he's played with them. Zach Wilde, Ozzy. Who's in the back?
Well, that's Dominic West, who is an actor. He's a great actor, by the way. But he was fake playing, so he wasn't actually in the band. But Jason and Zach and I did make the music along with Nick Cantonese, who was in Black Label Society at the time with Zach. We made the music together, and then had Jeff Scott Soto did some singing, and Michael Machievix did some singing. So yeah, lot of good stuff. It was a very strong band.
How did you get involved in this?
Well, originally I was asked to be the session bass player for the recordings, because a lot of times with a movie you do the music first. So they asked me. And Tom Werman, the the producer that had produced Tooth and Nail, he had asked me to come in and play bass on the sessions, which was great. So I start showing up at the rehearsals and start playing, Zach and it was Zach, Jason, and I and Nick playing together in the rehearsals. And the director would come by every day to watch, and pretty soon they kind of made me sort of a de facto music director, if you will, just because I was kind of organized and I sort of knew what was going on. Anyways, so the director would come down, and after a few days of just watching the rehearsals, he came up to me one day and he said, "Hey, listen, man, for this movie, I really want it to be the real vibe. I want it to feel like the real thing. And what I'm seeing here in this rehearsal is exactly what I want. You guys are a real band." He said, "Would you consider being in the movie?" And I said, "Well, let me think about it." Yes. No. So, I got offered the part that way. I mean, I had to go do a reading, I think, and audition for real. But I mean, it was just, it was unexpected. But it was really fun. And I was so happy when that happened. And it just blossomed from there.
Yeah, it's funny. Blas has a similar story. He said, when I played the drums for them, they go, "Wow, he's got a great look, and he's flipping the sticks, and he's got
yeah.
And then he had a read, and they go, "Oh, you're a drummer, not an actor,"
Right.
But
right.
but they make it work, and
Yeah.
obviously they made it work for you guys. So this is movie, for those who might not know, you have Jennifer Aniston, Mark Wahlberg. You're filming it on the same lot where they're filming Friends, and Brad Pitt is hanging out. How cool is this?
Actually, it was really cool. He's actually a really nice guy.
Yeah, that's what everybody said. At the time, these are big movie stars.
And Jen was a real sweetheart too. She was a very, very nice person, which was very cool.
I meant to ask Blas, was she a fan of hard rock music? Did she know some of these bands?
Didn't really talk much about that. I would guess she was. I mean, it seemed like she was more into kind of alternative stuff of her generation, but she certainly knew how to react, and she had to sit there during all those scenes while we were playing, and she was cool. She was very cool.
And then Mark, who had a hip hop career before, he was Marky Mark before he was this. Right. Before this, what was he like with all this?
He was great. He wanted to be. He's a method actor, so he wanted to really get involved, and he wanted to hang out and see what it was like, and so it was a lot of fun. He was great fun to be around. Just a good guy, I mean, just a very family man. I got to meet a bunch of his family, and he was great to hang out with. I mean, it felt like a big band. It was very, very cool.
When you made this movie, did you realize or even have the idea that this is something that people will be talking about with me forever?
Well, you always hope, but no, I didn't. I mean, it seemed like it was going to be a better music movie than a lot of music movies, but I think it came out for me even better than I expected, because you do expect a really corny Hollywood take on the music business, and at least there was some of that, but there was also some reality infused that kind of made it fun, and I think that's kind of why it's a bit of a cult classic.
Yeah, and what might be corny, I think, is also part of the fun of this movie.
Yeah,
I think people like that it's a little silly.
Yeah. The lightheartedness goes along with the music, and that's good.
Yeah. Now, Jeff, we're going to wrap up, but I want everyone who comes on has something to promote. I can't tell you how much hot sauce that I've been selling. Yeah, everybody's got a hot sauce. But the people that I've been talking to, they're passionate about it. They know about it. It's not just a merch item. And then I got a lot of coffee. I had David Elvison on. He's big on coffee. This is not just a merch item. He'll tell you where the beans come from.
Yes, I've had some of Dave's coffee. It's very good.
Yeah, and so, but with you, we got yoga. Right? You're the first rock star that we're going to sell some yoga. And you know what?
Great.
I think there's a lot of people who could use yoga. And I know this isn't the most rock and roll conversation, but you explain to me the benefits of yoga for you, because I think this is important.
Well, so basically, I've been doing yoga since 1978. And I started doing yoga because I hurt my back really bad. And I made a vow to myself that I was going to do something to help it. That was then. That was many years ago. And I've just done it since, and I've become very serious about it. And meditation has become an integral part of my life. The centering factor, the calming factor, just everything, helping with concentration and focus. Meditation has become very, very important to me. I still, and I still do the yoga postures and stretches, but the meditation is my main focus. So during the pandemic, my wife runs a yoga studio, and she had to go virtual like almost right away. So when she did that, we decided, well, I'm going to try doing a virtual meditation class. And it's been great fun. So every Monday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, I've been doing a virtual half-hour meditation class. And it's just been really rewarding for me, both as for my own practice and for helping others. And like I say, incorporating yoga into your life is only a positive thing. And with this pandemic, there's a lot of reason to need the introspection that comes out of that. And I think a lot of people face levels of depression that they hadn't really experienced because it was so different. Mm-hmm. And I know that meditation can be a help. I know I was experiencing feelings that the meditation really helped. And it gives you perspective. So if you can, go to yoga@hotforyogascv.com, and that is where you will find all the information about how to take the meditation class or to take other virtual classes, because you get a virtual pass. There's virtual Pilates. I do that twice a week. There's virtual Bikram yoga. There's virtual yin yoga, which is a very calming yoga. So, and there's my meditation. So lots to pick from. It's very reasonable and it's well worth doing. So if you can, check that out. Yoga@hotforyogascv.com.
Yeah, and I'm going to put the link below so it's easier. You just got to click on it. One of the things about this, which is so perfect about it being virtual, is I think people are uncomfortable going into a yoga studio.
Certainly with the pandemic they were. Yeah.
Well, that's for sure. But I think some guys feel too macho.
Right. Yeah, there's probably that. And then with meditation, virtual works well because it's not about the physical exercise as much as it is about just centering, and
you can do it anywhere.
It works quite well, and it shows you that you can do it at home, and it's really all about the practice. So doing it at home is great.
Yeah, I think that having some guidance and someone to kind of direct you through it helps.
Yeah,
but you can do it at home. You can do it anywhere, and I don't think people realize how much beneficial it would be to them until they try.
Right. And it's very simple. What I do is we do a little bit of we do some yoga postures, some simple stretches, which kind of help just relax the body. We do a little bit of breathing, and then I introduce different meditation techniques. There's about 4 or 5 techniques that I kind of circulate through, and just kind of so that you can pick one that you really want to stick with and do on your own in your own practice. And it's very simple. It's very easy. Anybody can do it, and anybody will get the benefits from it. It really is that powerful.
Yeah, and listen, Jeff, I'm not giving your age away, but you have really kept yourself together. You're not 100, although you should say it because then they'll say you look great for 100. Yeah. But you have kept yourself together. You've kept yourself performing. Your schedule is insane. So obviously something is working. Yeah,
and for me, it'd be impossible without the yoga. I'd be a neurotic mess. But it really helps. Not only physically, but mentally, and like I say, focus and concentration. It helps with all that. And I could not endorse yoga more. I really could.
And you're working on a book too, is that right?
And it's a yoga book. That's right.
Yeah. So I think that's great. Although we need a book about your career too, Jeff. We've talked for an hour. We barely scratched the surface.
Yeah. Well, thank you. A few people have asked me about that, but I kind of tend to think like, I can't imagine my life being that interesting to that many people. So,
one of the things I find about doing interviews is that sometimes the person that you don't think is the most famous or has the biggest story is the most interesting, because everybody has a story. So you've lived it. So for you, it's normal. But for you, your day-to-day life with the people that you've come in contact with, the personalities, I'm sure there's a lot of people, whether they knew who they were or not. I have people tune in every day and go, I had no idea who that guy was, but I liked the way you interviewed them. And now I'm going out and buying, their music.
Yeah.
So, you have a story.
Again? I do have a story, and who knows, maybe, but right now I want to. The reason I'm writing the book I'm writing is because I want to help people incorporate yoga into their everyday lives, and it's a very simple thing to do. But most people in the West, our contact with yoga makes it sound sort of mystical and foreign and distant. It's not. It is as part of everyday life as breathing. But we need the instruction. So that's the purpose of my book, and I'll take it from there.
Yeah, and I think it's great that you're doing that, because you're right. If people see you doing it, maybe they'll give it a shot and find some real benefits.
Even a handful of people, if that's all it affects, that'd be great.
All right, we're going to recap. Don and George were both crazy, but you were crazy too. It was a wild time. There might be a Dokken record again.
Maybe.
See. There's definitely going to be a foreigner tour.
Yes.
You've got your
19th. We have the first show. We've got shows booked starting the end of May. So
yeah, you got Foreigner plays a lot of big outdoor venues, so there are ways to do this safely. And you were going to do
our socially distanced shows in Florida, by the way, in Orlando, at a place that does outdoor social distance shows. So that's good. It's probably going to happen.
Yeah, so that's great. So you go to Foreigner's website, then you're going to see the End Machine. That you're going to pre-order the new record. Jeff's in your life, whether you like it or not. He's in there. So you have to support rock and roll music, especially now. So Jeff, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure, Jason. Great interviews. Really fun.
Oh, I appreciate it. I know you've spent it. These are the hardest ones, Jeff. One, I'm a fan, so I do know a lot about your career. But there's so much to talk to you about. So, and I know you've told these stories a million times. So I really appreciate you wasting a little time with me on a Saturday morning.
I don't consider it wasted time, but it's been fun.
All right, guys. Tune in next time. We'll do some more cool stuff. Thanks, Jeff.